Hello, it's Captain Invisible here, and welcome to another Medieval 2 Total War online commentary battle. This was a 3 versus 3 high period battle, low funds. I think it was about 10k or something very low anyway. It wasn't anywhere near the 15k per player you normally see nowadays. And as I say, it's a high period battle, so a lot of interesting army selections. Nothing, as I say, like the 15k all rules game, all periods games you see. So we'll just get into the teams really quickly. To my right, I can jump over. It is Criminal-Copykill in command of Scotland. And high period Scotland can bring all of these pikes into play, as well as a few other units. In fact, high period Scotland is the only Scotland that really gets these feudal knights. The early period ones don't get the same units as early period other factions. So Scotland is really behind on its technology, and only really gets these heavy plated feudal knights in the high period, which is a bit strange, but that's the Scottish for you anyway. And then we've got, this is Alvaleon in command of Russia. Russia does make for a really great high period faction with all these Dracaena heavy cavalry, really great cavalry in the high period. And it looks like it's just got a lot of these spearmen and these axe units, the British axemen and woodsmen, just making up a big core of infantry to smash into the Scottish lines. As I said, I'm in command of Venice, and if we just jump over to my army actually, you can see that I brought a rush army as Venice. Venice really isn't that good in the high period at all. All the things that make Venice powerful, the Venetian heavy infantry, the Stradiots, the Pavis crossbowmen, you can pretty much kiss all that goodbye. Your best cavalry is probably these men-at-arms. It's either these guys or the mailed knights. No fancy feudal knights or anything. You're stuck with the crap of the crap, basically. And your best infantry is also these crappy men-at-arms. But as I say, they're being an Italian faction, they can bring some decent units and spammable units, but everything that makes Venice Venice is gone in high period. So you won't see any Stradiots, you won't see any dismounted feudal knights, any knights hospitaller, any of that rubbish that makes Venice so powerful. It's just the basics, and to be honest, high period for Venice is quite it's basically the great equalizer. It makes Venice just so weak, as it should be. It shouldn't have been that powerful. You in regards to how good an army for Venice is compared to other factions, you really are behind on the times. You don't have the best cavalry, you don't have the best infantry. Your units are mediocre at best, and that's what appealed to me about Venice. I mean, I did a random selection anyway. I was just like clicking all the factions and just with my eyes closed. But basically, I stuck with Venice because they are a real challenge. You've got to create a decent army with the crap that it gives you, and we chose to play as rush armies as well. And well, Venice in a rush. It's got Pavis crossbowmen, but they were way too expensive for this low money, and if you can't bring Pavis crossbowmen as Venice, you really are stuck with some really rubbish units. So Venice is a rush in high period, not great, but we'll see how it goes anyway. And the player opposite me is DerChris. He's got a lot of these, lot of cavalry here. 3 lots of these mounted archers, which was breaking the rules. It was max 6-2 cavalry, so he broke the rules in that regard. And he broke the rules with artillery, but it was it wasn't too bad, to be fair. I think it moves them back to the back of the map in a bit anyway. Some infantry on the flanks and some of these dismounted Latin con. The Byzantines are not too bad in high period. They're better in early period, where they can really bring just where they can really outpower a lot of factions, out infantry them anyway. But yeah, not a bad army. And then to my left we have nigtheagle in command of Sicily. And Sicily, again, they're slightly better than Venice in that they get these chivalric knights in high period. But then, in terms of infantry, they're either stuck with these men-at-arms or the armoured sergeants. So they're not too bad in high period, but you know, they could be better. But he has brought some Pavlis crossbowmen, so he's going to have a significant advantage, possibly in the cavalry fight and the missile fight against the Mosers. Certainly with these spearmen, he should have an advantage there. And then we've got the Moors, commanded by Sayan, and he's got a mix of these camels, the Turok camel raiders, mixed in with some Arab cav and some Christian guard. Lots of spearmen in the front, and then a nice big blob of infantry, some Sugdanese tribesmen mixed in with Christian guard and urban militia, just all the goodness that the Moors can bring. They are a very infantry heavy faction like the Byzantines. They can bring a lot of infantry, but the cavalry is definitely on the weaker side. So yeah, as I say, this was a rush battle, so we'll just slow it down just a tad, and just in fact, let's just speed it up just a little bit, and just watch the armies move forward. So yeah, I brought these peasants just as a meat shield. Rush factions definitely need meat shields, just to help absorb enemy fire and just basically act as a screen for your infantry, just in case cavalry comes in. I've actually started using peasants a lot lately because you can always find a use for peasants, even if it's just throwing them in somewhere that you need extra bodies, or using them to chase off enemy missiles, or you're absorbing missile cav fire, or absorbing cavalry charges. There's just so many uses for them, and they only cost 110 florins, which is, you know, not too bad in that regard. So it looks like Criminal-Copykill's plan was literally just to shove his pikes down Alvaleon's neck, with a flanking force of border horse just to harass the flanks, and use these flanking forces just to, you know, crumple in the flank and really make things hard for Alvaleon to manoeuvre. A very nice army to do that, and these double line pikes are absolutely formidable for that. I'll have to catch what they do. In fact, it looks like he's rushing them in now, so he might actually be the first to engage. Good to see what these pikes can do. I'm slowly moving up. I'm not going too quickly, and me and nigtheagle were just hanging back a little bit. But we'll see what the looks like the Scottish knights are coming in to engage these cavalry militia. The feudal knights should theoretically be able to smash these cavalry militia. The cavalry militia are probably one of the worst cavalry in the game, but they're also one of the cheapest, so they are heavily armoured though. That's the one thing that they've got going for them. These Drazina though are formidable. They have armor-piercing axes, and they'll just absolutely tear down these feudal knights. So the added support of these noble swordsmen was, so Highland nobles, was ideal. But the poor Scottish cavalry does not survive, especially after these Byzantine infantry charge in. As you can see, my own flanking force with my spearmen and men-at-arms cavalry is coming in. But it's going to be too late to save these Scottish cavalry anyway. The pikes look like they've sent these woodsmen packing. These own pikes are they're doing okay, but the formation's broken up, so they've dropped all the pikes. This is a problem with pikemen. You have to babysit them, and it's usually not the easiest thing to do. But there are blobs of your Russian infantry not really being engaged by these pikes, so that's at least something they've got going for them. They're not being overwhelmed, which is what pikes really don't do too well against. So I didn't get the best charges off here actually. My men-at-arms get a bit bogged down by these infantry, and I have to use this men-at-arm to kind of distract, sort of to send in here to charge and absorb the infantry whilst these guys pull out, because they are currently getting hacked to bits. As I say, the charge wasn't too great, but I think this one gets quite a decent charge. So we should be able to flatten a lot of these infantry units. Or not, maybe let's just walk into them. Yeah, this side of my cavalry was really not doing too well at all. It's this side that really did do the breaking through of the infantry. And a distraction from the death of the Scottish general. But yeah, as you can see, we plough straight through these Varangian Guard, taking them down all the way from about 60 men down to 20, 16 men. It's absolutely ridiculous how quickly those guys got flattened. And these men-at-arms, they do have a pretty decent cavalry charge, so they have about a charge of 7, so you're a lot better than the mailed knights and other sort of counterpart cavalry. But yeah, nice charge, but I do take a lot of losses because these men-at-arms just aren't that strong cavalry, but the charge was definitely well worth it. And then one of my cavalry units just managed to pull out and recharge, and it does get a pretty decent charge actually. So yeah, when you get charges right with these types of cavalry, they do really well and manage to do things like break this flank. But sometimes it's just really hard to maintain a cavalry charge in the heat of battle anyway. I mean, this is on half speed, so you can tell how quickly the forces engaged. Anyway, we managed to break this flank, and we engage all the way up the front line with the dismounted men-at-arms. And their armour does really help actually. The men-at-arms morale isn't too great, but you know, the heavy armour they have really does help them hold out if you can keep their morale in check. So they're currently just trying to stop this tide of Byzantine forces. And I've got somewhere my crossbowmen putting down some covering fire for my infantry units. I brought crossbowmen just to have some missile presence on the battlefield, and I think they do really help later on in the battle. So yeah, we've got some peasants routing, and but other than that, we've got some nice flanking forces. Some cavalry here that broke through this flank are now free to engage. Some mounted sergeants just tying down these cavalry, and then my own general's bodyguard is free to do as he pleases. These men-at-arms still holding out against this Byzantine horde, and now with my cavalry coming in, it's going to be a very quick and decisive blow against the enemy. Very nice, but the Byzantines, they still have some cavalry out in the rear. Some of these cataphractoi, and these horse archers were really a pain in the arse, constantly raining down fire against my army. It really wasn't doing me any good, but we do manage to break through this flank, and we have a lot of numbers on this side ready to engage these last remaining infantry units, as well as some cavalry free to take out these returning infantry units. Just completely bowl over these 2 units and absolutely wipe them from the field. I say, really great these men-at-arms at charging, but they are still weak, very weak cavalry, especially in the morale department. So it looks like Scotland has managed to push through the Russians. Just the simple volume of pikemen seems to be grinding through these crossbowmen and infantry of the Russians. There's no real. I mean, they've got their pikes down now a little bit, but I think that's the back rows trying to push through to the front that's causing that.
Only half the enemy force remains.
It looks like we finally managed to break the Byzantines, and there's just these horse archers remaining. Still, the covering fire from my crossbowmen come in. As I said, the peasant crossbowmen were quite a good pickup. I really did need them to take part in the battle. Unfortunately, Sicily breaks around about this point, so I have to quickly send units over to sort of stem the tide of Moorish cavalry and infantry. Otherwise, we're going to get completely swamped at this side before Scotland has a chance to finish up the Russians and come and join me. So I do send some units over just to stop the Moors from pushing any further against Sicily. Just so that Sicily has time to regroup and re-engage. As you can see, some of these armoured sergeants are returning, and I think this cavalry returns after a while. But yeah, I had to do something to stop this tide of Moorish forces, so I just throw some units in just to try and stop that.
Dead. We have sent the idiot to hell.
So the Russian general has finally been defeated, and the Scottish will now have an easy time cleaning up the Russians. They're now free to send forces over to assist. Unfortunately, the Sicilian general now dies, and the fight for Sicily's survival is looking a bit bleak. Noticing that throwing my army against the Moors just isn't helping to stem it, I start regrouping my forces and getting some of these Byzantines off my back. We have to get rid of the Byzantines completely, otherwise they will encircle us and defeat our force. Fortunately, it looks like a lot of Sicily's forces now regroup, and it's even got some cavalry chasing down the general's bodyguard to stop him from doing any further damage. Unfortunately, his Christian guard is going to get a nice charge off here, and these poor men-at-arms just are not well equipped to dealing with such a cavalry charge. So in a second, I'll move my peasant crossbowmen up to support my infantry flank. My infantry is currently trying to get rid of these Christian guards, and then hopefully either turn around and face these Moorish troops or pull back. It looks like we're just going to get engaged by these Sudanese tribesmen. Fortunately, my general is going to be able to pull out. But I have to then engage with my infantry to stop the Moors from pushing any further. So this one unit of 16 dismounted men-at-arms holds the front, and my idea was then just to flank with my infantry, because currently his infantry is in a nice big blob, so it's fairly easy to surround. And as always, seeing an opportunity to charge cavalry into infantry is always a good idea. And these poor urban militia get a nice big hole in their formation. I think we finally managed to tie down the Moorish general and his Christian Guard cavalry, so we can now start to really take down their numbers. Unfortunately, these men-at-arms aren't the best, and the general's bodyguards of the eastern factions are quite superior. So he's going to really tear through my cavalry on that flank. My general still doing charges as always, hoping to get some kills on this flank. There's an this exposed flank really was quite a good place to start hammer and anviling, whilst my infantry holds the front. And Criminal-Copykill's coming in with his pikemen, but the Byzantines are going to get here first, and they're going to get their infantry into combat, and it's not going to be very good for my my already wavering infantry line. It looks like my crossbowmen are now in range and set up, so we can start to see some crossbow action as armor-piercing bolts come in to finish off some of these weakened units of Byzantines and the Moorish infantry. Fortunately, this one unit of men-at-arms just holds like a boss, and it allowed the Sicilians to get a nice rear charge in here with some of his armoured sergeants, and it's allowed my general to get some pretty nice hammer and anvil strikes as well. And naturally, it's given Scotland time to bring his pikes in, and this slow, methodical march of the pikemen is going to spell doom for these Sudanese tribesmen and Christian Guard. The Moorish infantry is thinning, and now it's surrounded by pikemen, cavalry, and some heavy infantry. So it's going to not be too long before it finally routs from the battlefield. The pressure on it was just way too much for the Moorish forces. It is unfortunate that the Sicilians actually returned, otherwise the Moors could have used all this infantry as well to assist. But fortunately for us, the Ninth Eagle did have some of these infantry and crossbowmen return, and he's going to be able to pin these Moorish troops in place long enough for Scotland and my Venetian forces to come and break the Moorish, one half of the Moorish army. Unfortunately, as I said, these missile cav, the Stradiots, are just being a pain. They're just trying to get rid of my crossbowmen and just getting in the way, basically. Fortunately, I've spread my crossbowmen out in such a way that he can't just roll up my line. I'm always going to have a crossbow unit ready to put down some fire. So yeah, still a lot of these missile cav about. I don't know how much ammunition they have left, but they're currently stuck on my crossbowmen, and my general's bodyguard will be able to support.
Blessed. The enemy general is dead. We have sent the idiot to hell.
So it looks like the Byzantine general's dead, so I believe that is all generals except for my own, who is fighting over here. Still nice and shiny. So that's good, I guess. He's still got some fight left in him. But it looks like the Byzantines have finally broken through, and they're going to start engaging all my crossbow units now with this unit of cavalry. I don't think I have too much left. I think just a couple of units of heavy infantry, a unit of 7 men-at-arms here, and my general 11 units. And then just these crossbow units, so we have to salvage what part of my army we've got left. Fortunately, Scotland's got all the infantry, and he's certainly got enough to finish off these Moorish forces. Providing that we can get rid of this cavalry, because Scotland currently has no cavalry.
They cannot be called true men.
So yeah, we're still tying up the muscle cavalry here, but they are obviously killing off all my crossbowmen. So we have to tie them down with the general and this unit of cavalry, and just get my crossbowmen out of combat, and then have them turn around and really unload on the flanks, the now exposed flanks of these missile cav, and we'll see what kind of damage they can do, preferably before my general dies. It's currently a little bit bloodied. So in a minute we'll see the crossbow bolts coming. The first shot's away, take out some of these cavalry units from the flank, and this is why I brought missile units, just to give me this range power, this range ability to just put down fire wherever I need it. And this cavalry is going to want to pull out of combat, and that's just going to give my crossbowmen more time to fire upon them. Then we've got some Scottish Gallaglyke coming in to assist my general, currently down to 4 men, but he's still fighting. This is the general, really brave man, a brave Venetian if there ever was one. He's currently hacking down these missile cav. The rest of the forces seem to be spread between the Moors fighting on this flank and the Scottish using their pikes to push the Moorish infantry back. Then we've got the Moorish cavalry over here, looking probably to support the missile cav, but it does break, and now the Moorish general has to act and get rid of these crossbowmen. Otherwise, otherwise I'm going to have a missile advantage in this fight, because currently my crossbowmen are one of the few units left on the battlefield that have the range capability. So just a handful of troops now, the handful of men-at-arms, and my general with two men in. But I think the cavalry of Sayan is probably needed elsewhere, because currently his infantry is breaking against these Scottish forces. Unfortunately, all Scotland has left is pikemen, so even cavalry is not going to really do much good against pikes. So yeah, really messy fight on this flank. All the Sicilian, looks like this is all the Sicilian cavalry. The bodies spread out all along this line. Looks like they engaged the spearmen. All the spearmen were in the fight with them. So yeah, poor Sicilian knights dying quite handily there. Then we've got the Byzantine forces here. My men-at-arms charging in and breaking those ranging guards. The big mess of the melee fight. God knows what happened here, but my men-at-arms defense obviously was too much for these Byzantine infantry. Oh, in fact, it looks like there's some Moorish troops here as well. So I think this fight must have just been spread all the way along here. Got some Moorish troops, some Byzantine heavy cavalry, and some other various bodies, some men-at-arms cavalry. Over here, some Byzantine infantry biting the dust to some of my cavalry. Some Scottish cavalry over here, a couple of Russian Russian cavalry, and then some Scottish and Russian infantry dying here, and then some big clumps of death here. Looks like a lot of woodsmen, spearmen. A lot of the Scottish cavalry are dying in places. A lot of Russian infantry here, a lot of Russian cavalry there. So it was just a big mess, and it's these kind of fights that I really enjoy. These sort of fights where you bring some quite interesting armies, and it becomes just so close a fight. Definitely worth playing with these rules. Yeah, high period, low money. It really makes you think about what armies to bring. I mean, even though I brought Venice, which I say wasn't the best faction to bring in high period, it still was very fun, and I still would manage to bring a pretty decent army if it was a little bit on the weak side. So it looks like there's still some Moorish infantry here. Some of these urban militia still fighting these pikemen, and the general's bodyguard of Sayan is going to get quite a nice charge in here against these Scots pike militia. In fact, a very nice charge. Unfortunately, the general is now the last one in his unit, and he's currently probably stuck in this pike formation. So I think it's going to be, although he's now cutting through the centre of them. This is probably how cavalry is supposed to fight pikemen. Instead of charging into them, just charge through them. Get into their formation, just start hacking down at them. That's probably the ideal way to fight pikes with cavalry. But yeah, it won't be long now. There's just these two Moorish infantry. In fact, I think I can put it on full speed.
It is unwise to praise the day.
So yeah, as I say, very interesting armies. Definitely worth playing. And look at that, the general actually escapes from the pike block. That is one hell of a bloody general, though. I think he'll die just charging into anything. Certainly these pikemen. He does not want to charge into them.
The enemy general lies dead.
Ah, there goes the enemy general.
No honor. He flees the field of battle and abandons his men.
So all that's left is the Byzantine artillery, and I think what happens in this battle is it actually finishes. The battle sort of just ends. It doesn't sort of show any of the results. So what I did was I took a screenshot of the game results, and I shall post that up just after this battle, just to show you the end results, just to give you an idea of what the statistics were. But yeah, a very bloody fight. Scotland with a lot of pikemen still left. I managed to come out with some couple of peasant crossbow men. Some of these men at arms still going strong, and of course my general and his buddy over here. Finally got some blood on his armour, but yeah, still very much alive. And then poor Sicily's been routed from the field, but so has the enemy. So we've managed to pull out a victory here, and as I say, I shall post the results afterwards, just so you've got an idea of the results. So yeah, high period, low money battles, definitely worth doing. I suggest all of you at least play a couple of them, at least to get the hang of them. And yeah, it really does make some very interesting formations and armies, and really does make for some very interesting tactics as well. Especially if you look to maybe mess around with the cavalry limits, maybe limit maybe limit it to 5 cavalry, but don't specify on missile cavalry, or allow 1 unit of artillery and just see where that takes you, or just, you know, just generally have fun. I mean, this was a very fun battle. It was quite unorthodox, not the normal army compositions you would normally see on the usual all periods 15k battlefield. And yeah, it really does make some interesting faction choices as well, because you wouldn't see Scotland ever in standard rules, and you see the Moors a lot, but you never really see a lot of these factions. And Venice, with its Stradiots and its its Venetian heavy infantry, just becomes a powerhouse. But this forced me to actually play with at least some skill in order to use Venice. Not to say Venice doesn't take skill anyway, but it really made me think, and having to play Venice as a rush army in this period was extremely challenging, because it's definitely not built like one in its high period statistics and unit roster. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this battle. As I say, I shall post a screenshot of the results at the end of this clip. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I shall see you all later.